Hey guys, welcome. I've got too many screens up. Hey guys, and welcome to Overland NZ. This is our very first live stream ever, so fingers crossed it goes well. We have not ever done anything like this before.
No, first time for everything. Yeah, do bear with us. Please be patient with us, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we can.
Yeah. Chloe was not originally going to be joining me, but that has changed. She's here.
I got FOMO.
And yeah, let's I guess jump into some. Actually, no. Before we jump to questions, words. I've got to do this live. It's way harder than like filming it normally. I hope you guys are doing all good. You know, we've been going through a interesting time recently, and it's been hard not being able to get out there and explore. We've been stuck at home for what are we now? Since I got back from the South Island, right as everything went into lockdown.
And with 2 long weekends in there as well, both with really nice weather. It's been hard.
It has, but that's okay. Turn the music down a bit. Thank you, Mr. Scott Patterson. Sorry about that. As I said, bear with us. Hopefully you guys can hear us all good now. Yes, it has been hard. We missed out on some long weekends, but that's alright. We thought we'd spend half an hour with you guys tonight, answer some of your questions, and hopefully get you guys inspired to get back out there when, you know, hopefully we get back to things being a little bit more open. Yeah.
Jump into questions.
Yes, let's answer some questions. Why not? So what do we got at the top here?
What's your dream truck?
Dream truck. Dream truck. Who asks that one? That was
Oliver
Frost. Ooh. That's a very hard question. I think a chopped 200 series, or, and this is getting a little bit modern, but one of those new Rivian electric trucks. I think they're going to be really cool.
For me, it's one of the new Jimneys. I say that with less knowledge than Daniel has of what makes a good off-road vehicle, but I think they look cool. They're a lot of fun. We test drove one. Wouldn't want to take it on the highway for a long way, but as long as you're not on highways, which we aim to avoid, then I think that would be a pretty mean setup with a tent on the top.
Yeah, Jimny would be pretty hard to beat. You know, it was great fun when we test drove it, and we very nearly decided to go for one. But we decided we didn't really need a Jimny and a Hilux.
Can't always drive them both at the same time.
Yeah.
So Hilux NZ asked, winch on the Hilux, a must or a need for a full South Island tour? Depends what you're doing. A lot of the tracks that we did down south in the Prado?
No, it was
what
Hilux.
Did we do? It was Hilux,
Yep.
but we didn't have the winch yet.
Yeah.
Sorry. A lot of the tracks that we did, we didn't need a winch and wouldn't have needed a winch. But I'm sure there are other tracks as well, and Daniel will be the expert on this, where having a winch would make it a lot safer and you'd be able to go a lot further as well. Yeah,
so we have never had a winch till recently, and that's purely because I have gotten us stuck a few more times than I ever have before. It depends what you're doing. If you're going for a South Island overland styled tour, you definitely don't need a winch. You can get away without one. But if you do want to go and tackle some of the West Coast and harder tracks down there, it's probably not a bad idea to have a winch. As you guys know, we've just had one put on the front of the Hilux with a bar. I put one on the Cruiser after I got us stuck in a southerly for hours and hours on the beach. It depends what you want to do, basically. Like, you definitely don't need one, I don't think. And as Arno has just pointed out here, there can be issues finding things to winch off.
Great point.
Sorry?
Good point.
Yeah, you can always bury your spare tyre, or there's a few different options there. But there is a lot of work.
You can have a lot of fun without risking getting stuck and without having a winch as well, I think. But,
yeah, and as Jono Hitchcock has just pointed out, recovery tracks, they're far cheaper, far lighter, far easier to use, and they're going to get you out of probably 90% of the situations when a winch would help. Yeah, I put one on the truck, on the Hilux, basically because I wanted a better approach angle, and just for those very few times where I've gotten us stuck, it would have saved us a lot of digging and a lot of pain.
And
yeah.
a lot of standing out in the rain, in the mud.
Yeah. Yeah, that. Where can you get a hoodie? Very good question. I will... They're not currently live on our store, but if you jump along to shop.overland.nz by tomorrow morning, I'll post a link somewhere. I will have a whole bunch of hoodies, t-shirts, singlets, although we are getting into winter now, available for purchase. Forgot about that one. Thank you very much.
Cool. Young Kiwi Adventures says any plans for a flat deck or alloy canopy setup?
That'd be the dream. But sorry, the dog's just rummaging around. But not at this stage. The Hilux is, and this goes back to a question that I think it was Jono asked on Facebook, what was next for the Hilux? The Hilux is pretty much done. But the only thing I really want to do is perhaps add a rear locker to it, just because it is a little bit light in the rear end and it does like to slide around a bit. So canopy, yeah, maybe one day. At this stage we don't. Stage we don't need one, and the things as they sit now, that truck works really, really well, and
does what we need it to do.
Yeah. I guess that's the easiest thing to say. It does what we need it to do. Yeah, there's things you can improve, but for every cent that we spend building stuff like that, it's money that we can't, that we don't have to go out traveling and exploring and paying for ferries and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's a very roundabout answer. I'm sorry for that. Dream truck, yes. Realistically, for now, nah. Where are we up to? Sorry guys, this is kind of unusual, like scrolling through comments on one thing, looking at us talking to you here.
Lost Sheep Adventures, and sorry for the dog as well, she's incredibly clingy. Lost Sheep Adventures, Jonah Hitchcock says, think the Rivians will have the range capable of touring the longer stints between charges.
Yes, New Zealand is the perfect place for an electric four-wheel drive. You can get 600 k's to a battery. There's charges all sorts of places, like, we get about that sort of range on our Hilux to a tank of fuel. I don't know. Be interesting to see, but I think that'd be cool.
Jono, again, when you guys come to collect the Hilux, do you think you'll hit up some South Island West Coast tracks and test out the new Winch?
Well, that was my plan when I was down south in March, just before everything went a little bit the wrong way. So I was going to do kind of down through Otago, across the west coast, up, and try and find somewhere to actually test the Winch out, because you got a new toy on the front of your truck, and you do want to use it. So yes, we've got no plans yet. Like, obviously dates and stuff haven't been opened up, but once we can book a plane ticket and a ferry, then we'll make a plan from there.
Yeah. Absolutely. We also, I don't know if Daniel said, I zoned out for a sec with the dog there, but we don't plan ahead. We just see where we end up a lot of the time. So we will see.
Yeah. If you drive, from Philip Kennett, if you drive a lot of the rivers down here, then like quicksand and snatching can become quite hard to do. I can imagine. I hate rivers as a general. I don't like driving through them, but
we're very North Island. Love a good beach, don't love a good river.
Yeah. And I can imagine that, they do get pretty soft.
What do you think, Oliver, what do you think the best beginner truck would be under 20 grand?
Prado. 90 series Prado. Pick one up for 10 grand. And as long as you don't buy one, like ours was a little bit average in terms of reliability, but that seems to be an exception to the rule. Like, you can get one for 10 grand, you'd spend a few grand doing it up and build an awesomely capable, super comfortable tourer.
Beauty of the Prado as well is, depending on the length of trips that you're doing, we used to sleep in the back of ours and had plenty of room for shorter trips, which can save on kind of that camping setup as well, while you're trying it out and seeing if it's the right thing for you, which saves a bit of expense in owning all of the kit when you're just really getting started. Yeah,
and they're comfortable and warm and all that sort of stuff. Like, it was a great vehicle. I'd still miss that truck. That's probably the one, of all the ones I've owned, that I miss the most.
Apart from the failed engine.
Yeah, and it had a few problems, but that's alright. But yeah, I'd say 90 series Prado. They're cheap, they're reliable, they go everywhere. I know people have a downer on them for some reason, but I loved ours. I thought it would look cool, and
did the job.
It did the job.
Max says, asks, what are must-sees or must-dos when doing a South Island overlanding trip? Oh no, where do you start?
Well, you see,
How long
you
have you
go
got?
from the top to the very bottom and explore everywhere.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Rainbow Road, Nevis Valley, Big River, and I know your favourite, Macetown.
Yeah. Yeah, Macetown was my number one. The whole Otago area was amazing. There's a lot that we still haven't done down there,
Yep.
and hopefully we'll get to do in the next year or two.
Yeah. There's so much down there, and it completely comes down to what you're into. But basically, when I was down in the South Island in the middle of March, I jumped off the ferry in Picton, straight over to Rainbow Road, down through there, into Hamner, jumped on the highway for a little bit, into Lees Valley, down from there, and you can kind of stay off the highway for huge portions of the South Island, and it's just amazing. Except for all the farm gates in Lees Valley, that wasn't fun.
When you're the only one in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to, and ripping off what Daniel said as well, it's also different as well. So again, we're not big on rivers. We've done a few kind of South Island rivers, and we personally just find it quite bumpy and uncomfortable. And
Yeah, it's
in one of our first ever four-wheel driving trips, we got wedged on a big rock underneath the surf. So personally not a big fan, but of course there's still so much to see when you do take them on.
and there's a lot that isn't rivers too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, Macaulay Valley, actually. I forgot that. I didn't make it all the way to the hut. I'm still gutted that I didn't, but wow, what a place. That is absolutely stunning through there. You may possibly have seen the drone shot around on our social media. That was just mind-blowingly awesome. Cool. Yeah. The South Island. Top to bottom, spend as long as you can. The longest we've done was 3 weeks. We did about 7,500 Ks.
It wasn't long enough.
It wasn't long enough, yeah.
Blinky for Bilford says, have you done Odlands Road in Wellington?
No. So I noticed that Mr. Scott Patterson is watching here. We originally were going to go up and do it with him. That was kind of the reason I bought the Land Cruiser. We haven't done it though. It is still high on the list, and should probably tackle that sometime sooner than later.
They say you don't see your own backyard. We spend so much time out of Wellington that we definitely have neglected the good stuff that we've got here.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump into one?
Yep. Where are we up to? Alex H. Hello, Alex and Tim. Hey.
Hey, Alex and Tim.
Nice to see you guys. Mr. Oliver Frost, do you guys recommend rooftop tents or sleeping in a truck?
Rooftop tent every time.
Yeah. I absolutely love the rooftop tent. We went up to Auckland we went to the far north in the back of in the Prado, and we slept in the back of that, and on the way home we called in to see the guys at Feldham just because I wanted to go and have a look. And fast forward however long it was till we got the Hilux, and the idea of going back to sleeping in the back of the truck just doesn't appeal to me anymore. Like, it's got some upsides, and like, it's windy, it's quieter and stuff, but the getting out of where you're driving, having space, and yeah, the rooftop tent is just so comfortable. We've done 3 weeks in it, comfortable as anything. Yeah.
Yeah, when we did 2 weeks in the back of the surf down south, and admittedly the surf was a bit smaller than the Prado. We broke it up with one night at Daniel's aunt's place just to go in a real bed and have a bit more space for a while. But I think the biggest thing for us is when you've got the tent, you're in a different space. You sit in the car all day, and then you're in the back of the car asleep, and you just I don't know, I said to Daniel at one point, I just really want to be somewhere else for a while.
Just want to be inside.
He laughed at me.
Yeah.
But it was legit, because you're in the car driving all day, and then you're in the back sleeping all night, and you're just in the same space for a long time. You've got to move all of your stuff from the back into the front so that you've got room to sleep, and it's just really cool having the tent, being able to keep all your sleeping stuff in it, and it can be ready in 2 minutes when you get to camp. If it's dark, it's just easy.
Yeah. Like, I love it. You know, they're not for everybody, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think it is the best way to do, especially on longer trips. It is the most comfortable and the best way to just sleep.
And saying that, we definitely progressed through. Our first time we went, we've got a ground tent, and we've used that a few times. First time we slept in a vehicle was in the back of Daniel's Subaru Legacy wagon, which was tight. That was just for one night, and then from there we had the surf and then the Prado. we kind of progressed through that to make sure that it was for us and it was what we wanted to do, because it's quite expensive to get all the kit, and if you're not using it enough, it isn't financially worthwhile. So we definitely went through the phases of making sure it was right for us before committing to the rooftop tent. I'm going to go see what the dog's barking at, sorry.
Sweet. Yeah. So, where are we up to? Whoa, hang on a minute, I'm losing the... 4-Drive Adventures New Zealand. Hey guys, keen to come out with you sometime. I'll get to that in a minute. And do we prefer new or old 4-wheel drives? We've got both currently. We've got the 80 series, which is old and done 300,000 Ks and has all old car problems. And we've got the Hilux, which is 2013 and done not many Ks. I prefer new vehicles. I love the 80 series from its ridiculous point of view. But if I had to, if I had to pick one, I'd take the keys to the Hilux, hop in that and go. It is just so much nicer. It's reliable, doesn't go wrong, and it's just a better vehicle all round for what we're using it for, which is primarily touring. As a hardcore off-roader, the 80 series is mint. Chloe hates the 80 series.
I hate the 80 series.
So.
But that's okay. I don't have to like it.
Tony Chambers asks, did you have to get a cert for the lift and wheels on the Hilux? We did not. So everything on it has been done in the rules, like fits into the rules where you don't need a cert. So it's got a 40mm lift, the wheels have pushed it out right up to what the new limit is, and that's just changed recently, but it's still all completely legal. The tyres are inside the flares and all that sort of stuff. I didn't want to go down the cert route. It's too much of a pain, and we don't need it. 40mm lift does everything that we need it to do. Where are we up to? Arno Van Eden. Would you guys be open to hosting a multi-day trip?
For your Patreons and supporters. Maybe a collab with Lost Sheep Adventures.
We are... The going on a trip one is... Let's say yes, but we currently have no plans of it.
It's something we've talked about a lot, and it's something that we'd love to do at some point. It would need to be separate from a filming trip, because filming trips take a lot longer than people realise, and we've been with a few people who get pretty bored pretty quickly, which is totally understandable. There's a lot of admin that comes with hosting trips that we've been looking into and researching. We're not there yet, but it is something that we're keen to do one day when we kind of have our heads around it and know what we need to do as hosts.
Yeah, like we're not a tour company. For the most part, it's me and Chloe and Scotty, and we just kind of rock out as mates and go on trips, sort of random ones that we find, and occasionally film them. Yes, we want to do trips with people. We're still figuring out how to do it in a way that makes sense, because they are very different than what we would normally do.
Yeah. You're from the North Island. What's your go-to track from a South Islander, from Ryan?
Ooh, that's a good question. Ryan, was that Ryan Brown? Locally, Red Rocks. I learned to drive a 4-wheel drive there. That's my favourite.
I think we all learned to drive a 4-wheel drive there. Otherwise,
anywhere in the far north. The far north is amazing. Like, it's beach driving, there's dunes, there's not a couple of rivers, but if you want to go on the beach, if you want to be in the sun, far north, that is. It's not really a track, I'm aware of that, but just as a place, you can spend, I think we spent like 2 days just on the sand. Didn't have to go back onto the highway.
90 Mile Beach. Also Tukino Ski Field, which is Mount Ruapehu, kind of right in the middle of the North Island. It's different at any time of year, so you go in summer and you feel like you're on the moon. You go in winter, and I guess from being from the South Island, you might have had a few more opportunities than us to drive in the snow, but you go in the winter and it's snowy, and it's pretty amazing up there too.
Yeah, that was cool, actually, driving the snow up there.
Yeah.
Scotty Beatson, hey buddy, you have to shout out, and you reckon sleeping in a truck. We're Blair Marshall.
sorry, I'm moving stuff around. With the Rivian being about a ton heavier than a Hilux before adding any gear, do you think that it will have a major impact on off-road ability?
Given that you've got 4 motors on 4 wheels, obviously that goes without saying. Yeah, you've got kind of like the 4 engines. You got massive torque from 0 RPMs. I don't know. They're gonna be heavy. They're like F-150 size, so they're enormous, which in New Zealand is probably a bit of a downside. I honestly don't know. I'd love to try one though. I think it'd be awesome fun. How do you find the mattress in your Rooftop 10? Blinky Bilford.
I love it. I think we're solid mattress people though, right? You found it a little bit too solid at first.
Yeah, when it was brand new, it was a little bit hard, but once you've slept on it and warmed it up a few times, it definitely gets softer, and I find it real comfortable.
Yeah, and that is our mattress at home is pretty solid too, so it works for us. I know it doesn't work for some people, and people have talked about adding mattress toppers or foams and that kind of thing, but for us it works really well.
Yeah, it's yeah. Mr. Ash from Kaizenworks, hey buddy. What does he say? Looking forward to getting a rooftop tent one day, but the wife wants to know how hard are they to keep warm in.
We was that on the first trip when we first picked up our Felden that we slept on the Central Plateau?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good idea to go to Pokaka Mill in early September.
Yeah, it was below 0 overnight, and that was cold. I would not recommend that.
It is better with a sleeping bag. Like Tennyson was
true.
pretty cold that night. I was there.
That's a good point. We did only have a duvet on that trip. You get a cold face. You keep warmer than you would in a ground tent because you don't get the cold ground seeping up. But it's still a tent. You still feel the cold.
Yeah, it is definitely warm though, I think, than sleeping in the back of a vehicle.
Yeah.
Like we did that for a long time. We camped weirdly around this time a couple of years ago before we sold the Prado, and I remember that night we got into camp, it was about 2 degrees, and that was cold. The rooftop tent, as long as you got a good sleeping bag and even some thermals, probably aren't a bad idea, but when it's cold they're warmer, and when it's really hot you can get the wind coming through them, and that's my favourite. You're on the beach, the breeze coming through, and yeah.
Or as Mr. Scotty Patterson suggests, an inverter and an electric blanket. So.
That is something I've been toying with.
We don't need that.
Yeah, I have definitely been toying with the idea of an electric blanket, but it's not that cold.
Do you want to jump into Facebook questions? Have you got them handy?
Yep. So as you guys know, I chucked a couple of... sorry, I didn't. Let me start that whole thing again. Man, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. As you guys know, I chucked a thing on Facebook the other day about this very thing that we're doing now, and asked you guys to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to start with Isaac Dunphy. He asks, what food supplies do you take out with you on overnight trips, and what would be your go-to meal?
I guess there's a 2-part answer to this, because for an overnight trip, if before we had our fridge, it's very different than now when we've got the fridge in the back. Before we had it, we were bread rolls, tins of fish, salad stuff that we kept as cold as we could, but just really quite basic, particularly if it was for only one night. Stuff that you could chuck in the chili bin, but also stuff that you didn't have to worry about if the chili bin melted and got a little warm. It wasn't going to make you sick. So it was tins of fish. It was
rice, pasta,
wraps.
Yeah. It was fine. But the fridge has been a game changer. Like, we eat pretty much like we do at home.
Curry
now.
And tacos and burritos and burgers, sausages.
Yeah, well, rocking up to camp, I'd have like a nice steak or chicken green curry or something's pretty cool.
In terms of the best meal, anything you can make in one pot. Just because dishes are a pain in the ass and you don't want to do them when you're on a holiday. So, yeah.
And food just tastes better when you're outside. I don't know what it is about it. Like, it's just better. And he asked also, I've had a few people ask me this week. Never before, but what camera gear do we use? Basically, I've got this dude here. It's an old, I don't know how old it is now, it's about 8 years old, Nikon DSLR. That's our primary photo camera. We have a different one that we use for filming video, and cell phone and drone, and nothing too flash. GoPros, yeah. Most of the photos come from that camera. It's my workhorse. It's taken there's over 100,000 photos now, and it has many problems, but does the trick.
Any more plans with the app?
Any more plans with the app from
you, Luke.
Luke? Yes. I have been a little bit. What's the word? Slack, I guess.
Busy.
Yeah. I've been a bit busy doing other things. But I have a few ideas that I am going to do around improving the experience, improving what you can do on the mobile side, and also putting together itineraries of trips. Sorry. Yeah, I'm putting together some itineraries of trips so that you can kind of look in one place and go, cool, I'm heading to the Central Plateau this weekend. Here's a list of 5 things you can go and do, some campsites and all that sort of stuff. So that'll be coming hopefully before spring, but no, definitely before spring, hopefully long before that. And as for the Android version, because I know there's a lot of people waiting for that, it is on the cards finally. I'm still trying to figure out how to build Android apps properly, but we're getting there very slowly, and I'll have more on that in the next couple of months.
Yeah, we're definitely an Apple family, so it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
What drone do you have? Philip is using a DJI Phantom 3.
What drone do I have? That's a good question. It's a DJI one and it flies.
Mavic?
It's a Mavic Air. Mavic Air. Yeah, I think it's a Mavic Air. It was about. That's in the other room.
Yeah.
It was one of those deals that popped up, and I got like a whole bunch of batteries and blades and pieces for it for $1,500 or something, and I was like, cool, done. It does the trick. It's a drone. What is the app? The app is called Overland Navigator. If you go to our website, overland.nz, there's a big panel there with a link to it, and it's on iPhone and it's on your browser. So you can use it on an Android phone in the browser or on your computer. Yeah.
It's got all the tracks and campsites that we've done, but also pulled data from the Department of Conservation website as well. So
yes,
heaps of info for when you're travelling. We've got time for a couple more questions, but we don't want to make this too long.
Yeah, trying to keep it tough.
If we run out of time, we'll hang on to them and answer them.
Yeah. So there's one other real common question. This is asked by. I'm so sorry. I'm going to make an absolute butchery of this, but Glauco. Hopefully that's correct. He asked, "How do you plan your trips?"
And I'd like to relate to that. Someone also said maps and GPS. What do we use? So those could kind of tie in together.
Yeah. So maps and GPS. We use our own app sometimes. Obviously not very often because it's like this stuff that we have done. But I've got topo maps on my cell phone. We use that when we're lost. So basically, when we go on trips, we don't really plan them. My love of this stuff comes from not really knowing what we're doing or having a plan. So we'll kind of pick an area to say, what's a good one? In October, I wanted to go have a look at the east coast of the Wairarapa all the way up to Hawke's Bay. I had a quick look on some topo maps on the computer before we left, and we just kind of headed out from Masterton towards the coast, followed the roads to see what we could find. There was very little off-road stuff out there, but we did get on to a few really cool beaches. But yeah, we don't really plan. We just kind of I've got Mark Wilson's South Island book. We use that a lot down south. That was really useful.
We just
kind of drive around. I know it's a really unsatisfying answer, but
we also use a lot of time going down tracks that seem like a lot of fun until you've driven a really long way and you get to a gate and there's nowhere to turn around, and then you're reversing.
Yep, and into a ditch if you're me.
Always into a ditch, yeah, every time.
Yeah, we honestly don't plan, I guess, in the traditional way that people enjoy. Well, sorry, no, that's not what I mean. We don't plan the way that people traditionally think. We just love just sort of getting out there and finding things. You know, occasionally, like when we do our big YouTube trips, we plan those quite a lot because we've got a whole bunch of cars, a whole bunch of people, and we need things to go smoothly because filming takes forever as it is. But
sorry. Andre just said, please let Daniel keep the 80, Chloe. No. Sorry. We could sell the Hilux, I guess. Oh, Daniel's writing.
Sorry, I'm just writing the link because there's people asking.
Phillips just asked, when are we planning on coming down south again? In case you missed it, we had to leave the Hilux down there when lockdown happened. Daniel was down south by himself and had to fly back up. So our Hilux is currently down south being kept safe for us. So as soon as we can, we'll be coming down to pick it up and head the long way home.
Yep, I'm going to go down and finish what I started, except maybe less solo.
Yeah.
More Chloe with me.
Hopefully I can come too this time. It'll be good.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of peer pressure about the 80 series now. It's a terrible vehicle. We're using it at the moment while the Hilux is down south. We put my car in the garage, and I'm driving it to the supermarket, and it's definitely not a drive to the supermarket vehicle either.
No, it's very good at being off-road. It does leave a bit to be desired on road.
Yeah. And we don't need 3 vehicles and a motorbike in a house with 2 people.
Yeah. And,
anyway.
Yeah, I built the Hilux as a touring vehicle, and yes, I like the 80 a lot, but the Hilux, for what I want to use it for, is just, I love it. Yeah. And it's, yeah.
And how can we get a Jimny if we keep the 80 series as well? Come on, guys. We might trade the wife in for a 200. We might be done. Was there anything else on Facebook? I think
Let me just have a real quick look on Facebook.
Pretty close to wrapping up anyway.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. It's been half an hour. One more question from Mr. John Hitchcock, because I thought this was an interesting one. Who's behind the scenes of Overland NZ?
Whoever we can drag in with us.
Yeah. Basically, it's normally me doing most of the stuff. No, that's me.
No, that's fair. It depends on the trip. When we've done trips with just me and Daniel, when we've got both vehicles, we take turns doing the filming. Daniel does all of the editing. A couple of our bigger trips where we've had Scotty with us as well.
And my brother being a camera dude, and we've also had Scotty's flatmate who comes in a camera car, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, most of the work is Daniel. He does all of the editing and a lot of the hard yak, and I tag along for the ride. But I also do the driving, which is an important job.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically I've got a full-time day job, and this is what I do outside of that, and it probably takes up the majority of my free time. Yeah, just between all the different bits and pieces that we do, trying to produce all the different content and all that sort of stuff. But I absolutely love this. It is, yeah, we do this because we enjoy it. It's a hobby that's kind of grown to something a little bit more, which is pretty cool. And massive shout out to all of you guys who follow us and support us. It means a lot.
Especially our Patreons, right?
Yeah, and especially I should have probably gone that sooner. All the people on Patreon, it's a couple of bucks a month, and we really, really appreciate it. And I try my best to make sure I get you guys sort of behind the scenes content and other random bits and pieces, as often as I can. And it's the only place where you're going to see my brother and the dog staring each other off before we head out to filming that day at the camp.
I think we're through everything. Thanks for the feedback coming through on the live feed as well, guys.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're enjoying this, which is cool. We're winging it a little bit, as you can probably tell, but hey, it's live bloopers too. So.
And I just thought, we've all been stuck at home, and try and encourage people once we get out of lockdown to be able to get out there and hopefully inspire you guys. And I've enjoyed this. This has been really cool.
Sorry if we did miss your questions. There's quite a few things coming through on the stream, so we'll have another scroll through that, and we'll definitely get back to you on stuff that we might have missed. Yeah,
and by the looks of it, this has gone well. You guys are like another one at some other point, so we'll figure something out. Maybe we could make this a every now and then thing, and I don't know, we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, see how we go.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully we can all get back out there soon. And I'm itching to go and pick up the Hilux and finish off South Island solo, and I'm sure all you guys can't wait to get out there either. So, yeah.
Stay safe, and see you soon.
Catch you guys later.
See ya.
Where's the camera?
Okay.
See ya.